You are live.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Sunset Safari. For those of you joining us for the first time, my name is Jamie. I have Brian on camera with me this afternoon, and we have one very patient male zebra who has stuck around on quarantine. Hold on 1 second, there we go. Might have been a bit soft. Hopefully it's a little bit better by now. Quarantine clearings proving to now be an extraordinary sight to watch general game as they all gather here for access serves. Our little portion of wilderness area that we have. We are live and interactive, so you can send through your questions on your comments on hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarth.tv, or anything that you might want to chat about over the YouTube chat stream chat. Now I've lost it again. Oh dear. James and I seem to have a similar problem with describing that, but you get what I mean. On this relatively mild afternoon, it is apparently 28 degrees centigrade, which falls about 83 degrees Fahrenheit. Definitely not as warm as the afternoons we've been experiencing over the last few months. I'm sure animals like this zebra are reveling in the change of temperature. Look how vividly green everything looks. Isn't it beautiful? Right, so plans for the afternoon. Brent is out on the other vehicle with Jean-Dre on camera, and they've gone looking for Karula. They had tracks of her this morning. I'm going to be spending a little bit of time seeing if I can't follow up on that buffalo herd that James had crossing this morning. The reason I say that is because we had the Nkuhuma lionesses on Arathusa earlier this morning, but very, very close to our boundary. And judging by the tracks that had moved through the area, they were most definitely following that buffalo herd last night. And there's some empty bellies amongst the Nkuhuma lionesses. So exciting prospects for this afternoon, or sort of towards the end of this afternoon when it gets a little bit cooler. We've also got, speaking of animals on quarantine, hiding away there, excuse me, our sounder of warthog, with the 2 females and the 4 little babies. Used to be 6 little babies, now down to 4. Now when we first started seeing them, the babies were half the size that they are now, but so was the grass. And now they're managing to hide quite happily. Oh, look at that drongo coming in. That little black bird that fluttered about is also reveling in the hoof action around quarantine, because big animals moving through here disturb insects, and insects being the primary diet of a fork-tailed drongo. Amazing. Just picture what quarantine looked like 2 weeks ago. I know that we keep remarking on this, but I think it's come as a bit of a surprise, or it's certainly come as a surprise to me, just how well this area has recovered from what it was looking like. Quarantine clearings was starting to look a bit sort of desert-like. And speaking about our plans for the afternoon, Aaron, watching in New Zealand, you would like to know, looking at potential meals for the Nkuhumas, whether or not they ever did get a buffalo, and whether or not they stuck around. The answer is they probably are still on Arathusa, and I will be heading across there a little bit later this afternoon. I'm just giving the other guides a chance to move into that sighting. But we will be heading there at some point. They either stuck around on Arathusa or they've crossed on to Djuma. Those would be my 2 possible guesses as to what they might have done. As far as I know, no, they didn't get a buffalo. I think we probably would have heard about it. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to get an update because Brent was checking on that buffalo herd for me. Standing by. Copy that. Thanks, Brent. I'm going to check all the way down Zoe's and then along Triple M. Thank you. Wonderful. Hello, zebra. Ooh, you're getting closer and closer. A young male, all on his own. Yesterday afternoon, we were sitting not far from this spot at all, doing our fireside chat, to listening or sort of accompanied by the sounds of an elephant bull chasing the herds of zebra and wildebeest around this clearing, around and around us. It was such a wonderful experience to be able to sit out in the bush at night and experience stuff like that. Now, the reason that I know it's a male is, first of all, the fact that he's on his own. You very, very seldom see females without the rest of the herd. They usually go from the herd that they are born in to being collected by another male. The other reason I know is that at one point he did turn his back on me, so I could see the thin stripes, that thin stripe, singular, that runs underneath his tail, beneath the cheeks of his bottom. In females, that black stripe is much thicker and much larger. Now, this zebra is lucky. There are no elephants to chase him around quarantine, but it seems as though Brent has found some other elephants to show you.
So, welcome to the Sunset Safari. As you can see, there's a large grey beastie there, but this one is looking a bit peculiar. He's got the ear on his right side. The cartilage isn't holding, but there's something not quite square with him. I can't tell you why I say that, but Jean-Dre agrees with me. And by the way, Jean-Dre is on camera, and my name is Brent Leo Smith, and we're going to be exploring the African wilderness with you. Now, here we go. He's just, I thought it was a young bull, but it could be a cow. I can't really see too well from where I'm sitting low here, but it almost looks possibly a bit ill. It could just be the droopy ear. Now, an elephant's ear is cartilage, and obviously that cartilage is not holding. And you do see that occasionally in elephants. I can't see any real signs of malnutrition or disease, but I can't explain. It's just, maybe it's the behavior that's maybe slightly off. Let's have a quick look now. We can see if it's a male or female. Initially, I thought possibly a young male. No, I'm not convinced. No, it is a young male, from what I can see. You can see very... not 100% relaxed, but still feeding and walking. Maybe it's just a funny looking illy, but I'm not convinced, so we're not going to push our luck too much here. I'm going to stay a little bit further away and watch and see what happens. Now, of course, having the cartilage in the elephant's in its ear not working so well is going to affect its air conditioning system. Okay, it looks like it might come out into the open. Hello. So you can see that nice network of veins there behind the ear. Now, that's for cooling it down. So it actually, well, I think it's a female. Sorry, I'm completely wrong there. Just have a look at that head. Quite sharp, quite angular, so it is a female. So then again, a bit older than I initially suspected. Now, another strange thing is, of course, it is all by itself. So, B-Bird says we've definitely seen this ellie before. You see that, as soon as I started the car, not 100% relaxed. You just see that slight little twitch in the ear. There's something, I can't put my finger on it, maybe due to circumstances that are not visible from the outside. Makes me feel that this elephant possibly isn't 100% And it's not just the ear. There's lots of ellies that don't have full use of their ears, who've had some cartilage damage. And elephants are a funny thing. It's just those slight little signs in their body, in their movement, and their body language. I think it definitely looks like tracking a herd. See how she pops her trunk up every now and then, sniffing in that direction. So we're not going to follow this elephant off into the bush, and there's no one reason I can give you why. There's just, it's a feeling, and I've spent a lot of time around elephants in my life, and I just think there's something just not quite right, so we're definitely not going to take any chances with it. But welcome, and what a great start. It's like every day you get confused by an elephant. Now I'm going to have to ponder about that for the next a couple of days. I'm going to leave her be. We might catch up with her again if she is trailing a larger group. They might be heading into the area we're going to be working on this sunset safari. So I was out tracking this morning, and towards the end of the safari I found tracks of Karula. Unfortunately they were heading south, but there are tracks coming backwards and forwards in that area. As we know, she's got a den to the south in Little Gowrie. Oh, hello, mister. And she might have a kill somewhere on Djuma, and she's moving backwards and forwards. Here we go. Nice kudu bull. I really love that little white chevron upon their nose. It always amazes me how they're able to maneuver their horns through the thickets, lie them right up against their back, put their nose in the air, and can actually move at considerable speed through the bush. Away there, and if you notice carefully, so will his skin flick like that, and it's a little nervous reaction to try keep some of the biting flies off them. And we have had an explosion of little stable flies. You can actually see them sitting on his body there. Now these little guys are not only the bane of most of the wildlife out here, but the bane of the cameramen and presenters. Now they are quite bloodthirsty little creatures. They look very similar to the housefly, but unlike the housefly, they do drink blood, and they are heavily responsible. If you have a look at a lot of the animals' ears out here, being heavily worn, almost looks lots of little rips, and a lot of that biting, specifically on the predators, is from those tiny little flies. Well, at least we know we've got a watchman in this area. Kudu have fantastic hearing and fantastic eyesight. And if we hear them alarm calling, they've generally definitely seen a predator, unlike impala and inyala that sometimes start snorting and barking at a figment of their imagination. Kudu are generally quite a reliable source if they alarm call. So we've just seen that elephant that's just, there's something slightly suspicious about it. And Debbie's wondering, is it because she might have trouble keeping up with the rest of the herd? I couldn't see any physical difficulties apart from that cartilage issue. So, and I couldn't see any outside signs of malnutrition or injury. Maybe she's just a little bit nervous because she's wasn't paying attention and she's been left behind. That could be that, and certain elephants will start feeling quite nervous when they're not amongst their kin. But we'll find out hopefully a little bit later. I'm going to loop around to the other end of the block that she's moving in towards. We were going there anyway to look for a leopard, so hopefully we catch up with those eddies as well. So there is herd of ellies have crossed the road through here. So maybe that is the herd she's after. And you can probably notice there's this constant movement of flies all around my back and also around Genre. And that's quite often when the flies get bad, you see our cameramen become ninjas and they wear those buffs on their head and over their face, and all you can see is their eyes. So that breeding herd of buffalo that the Nkuhumas might be trailing at the moment. Look at that. You can see this. Look at that. So those buffalo have passed through here, and you can see how they're absolutely flat in the grass. Now, they're walking in a long straight line. Now, they could be just marching through to the treehouse dam, or they might have been pushed a little bit further during the day by those lions. But we're definitely going to go have a look. It seems like everything's converging in the area we're working this sunset safari. So, bon chance. Now, as you can see, not so much when they're walking in a straight line like that, but as they spread out, and you can just see there's now quite a lot wider section of buffalo tracks, and the smell, there's dung everywhere. Incredibly important animals in the ecosystem in terms of turning the ground, getting those grass seeds embedded, and also fertilizing and grazing as they pass. So one of our keystone species, and if you remove a keystone species from an ecosystem, it can drastically change the ecosystem. So for example, if we removed buffalo from this ecosystem, you would find the bush becoming a lot more thick, and you don't realize that just that big herd moving through there, also stomping on a lot of the little bushes and plants that start growing, will be very important for the grass species, and also the fact that they keep grazing it, keeping it short, keeping the grass growing. So one of our more important species in terms of managing an ecosystem, buffalo. Let Jamie know. Djuma. Jamie, those buffalo came down Philemon's and are now heading towards Treehouse Dam. I haven't found them, just tracks so far. These buffalo have definitely been having a tough time of it over the last couple of days, and Nkuhuma Pride has been trailing them. And Jamie's just going to go check a little bit further behind us to see if the lions are still on their trail. So we're going to just have a quick look at the treehouse waterhole, see what's here. Now, I wonder if they've managed to pull all those old boys back into the fray. Probably not, but I'm pretty sure they would have come for a drink here at the waterhole and then moved on. There's at least one old boy still here. Maybe it's the tail end of the herd. Now, this is not good news for our Karula search, because this big herd of buffalo would have obliterated any of her tracks. It's a buffalo cow, so this is the back end of the breeding herd. Let's just get in. There we go. So there's a few cows here, so we've them drinking, but I do think these are the stragglers. I think the majority of the herd has already moved on. Now, I'll give you an idea what it smells like. If any of you have ever been to a cattle farm, and that is the scent that is permeating through the air at the moment. It smells very similar to cattle dung, buffalo dung. So, can just smell, it smells like you're on a big farm when you're around a big herd of buffalo. Let's try and see if we can catch up with the rest of the herd. We should look for some senna. Get rid of the buffalo smell. Some nice pretty flowers. So there we go. It looks like the rest of the herd is maybe moving back towards quarantine, just judging on where these guys are going. Hello, Flows. So if there is anyone new out there, remember, you are able to ask us questions about what we're seeing in the African bush. You can ask us questions about that funny-looking female buffalo as she walks through the bush, that one over there. She's got a bit of a bemused look on her face. And you can do that by sending us an email on questions@wildearth.tv. That particular buffalo has got, she had a beat. Old lady.
Brent has given us some clear sort of evidence as to where that buffalo herd has wandered off to. Now, the reason I haven't followed up straight away is I'm actually just checking all along. I'm basically backtracking the herd, tracking where they've come from to make sure that the Nkumas are still hot on their trail before I hit Arathusa. I'm giving the guides a chance to follow up on them from that side, just because they have in the past, they prefer to, once they start their game drive, go to those sorts of sightings that are outside the lodge first, and then the rest of the vehicles start to move in, which makes absolute sense. I just want to double check. I wouldn't be surprised. It hasn't been baking hot today in the slightest. It's actually been fairly cool. So there's a chance that they could have been moving about even after we left them on the sunrise safari, even though they were looking particularly flat and tired. I still think they might have wandered about. That's the plan. That's what we're up to at the moment. Oh, flies fluttering about. The flies have also been something. They've been a consequence of the rain. All of these brand new baby flies that have just completed their metamorphosis and become adults. And all presenters and cameramen have been commenting on them. Brian, you've got a few fluttering about you there.
I've got thousands here.
I've got an entourage around me. It's all part of being in the bush. Definitely not a big deal, a big problem. I think those of you who've been watching since at least sort of the time that I started last year will know that of all of us, there's one presenter that gets plagued more than others, and in fact gets the most irritated out of all of us. And that, of course, is Steph. Now, Steph, being the bush genius that he is, came up with a very interesting plan to keep the flies away, and I'll tell you about it in a second. I'm just going to stop and have a look quickly at this male. Ooh, there we go. We've done our very subtle stop approach. I'm very aware of the sand in the brake discs. That's what's causing the squeaks. Very difficult to do anything about, unfortunately. Off he goes. A magnificent looking male impala. I must say that the males are looking really good. compare and contrast. You do have the opportunity. Take note of what the male impala look like now at the beginning of April and see what they look like at the end of June. You're going to notice a tremendous difference between the start of the rut and the end of it. Here he goes. Here's basically what happens within the rutting season itself is that the males expend, especially males of this age, he's coming up to 4 years old, he's almost fully grown. His horns haven't quite completed their upward turn, but he is quite a large-bodied male impala. He will spend the next 2 months fighting off, chasing away other males, attempting to collect a group of females, and then mating with them. And the females I must say, show a certain reluctance to accept the attentions of the males. They go dashing off into nowhere. And this morning we had an incredible sighting of them on quarantine, being herded by one particular large male. Unfortunately, in my opinion, getting started, peaking a little bit too early. He has very cleverly managed to collect his harem. He's got his ladies all to himself, but he's just actually done it a little bit too soon. Oh. Impala just got a little bit of a fright there. That could have been anything from the wind blowing to a leaf moving. I'm not sure what startled him there. But yes, that male was peaking too soon, investing too much energy before the females are actually ready to mate, and as a result, he might actually miss out on the opportunity when they do get to the point where they are ready to mate with the males. And the male impala, he'll have a window of 7 days, if that, at which he will be able to collect a group of ladies, mate with them, fend off all other males. And during that time, he will not eat, he will not sleep, he will not groom, he will drink. He'll have to drink. But that is what he will spend that time doing. And by the end of 6, 7, 8 days, he's just too exhausted to carry on. And the next male sweeps in, takes over, and starts the process again, keeping the genetic line nice and fresh and snappy and free of inbreeding. Oh, it's just other, I could see movement far away in the bushes there, but it's just other impala. So yes, take note is what I mean of what the male impala look like now. The other physiological effect that I'm seeing is, not to put too fine a point on it, their testicles have increased in size probably by about 1/3. So they've got a lot bigger. I would not go so far as to say they've doubled in size, but they have definitely increased in size. And it's an interesting physiological effect because you can clearly see, not clearly, that was a fantastic spoonerism, clearly see the impact that the breeding season actually has on an animal like an impala. And that's not something you would see in, for example, kudu, that have no set breeding pattern. Nyala, they breed all year round. And I think it is just because once that impala does get those females, he has such a limited chance to pass on his genes. And at the end of it all, that's basically what most organisms out here, most at least animals, set out to reproduce and to pass on their genetics to the next set of, or the next generation. Here we go. I knew I saw you moving here. Oh my goodness, but you are so tiny and you're very hidden. Let me try. Here's a steenbok. It wasn't an impala, it was a steenbok I was seeing from that side. And I think that might be as good as it's going to get. Hello, little one. And I'm sure he thinks all of the goings-on of the impala are fairly ridiculous. Since there's a little male steenbok, he has his lady, and he will have the lady for the rest of his life. In his small little territory, basically about 300 square meters. Oh, what do you think he's doing there? I can tell you what he's doing. Unique amongst steenbok. No other antelope species really does this. And look how concentrated he is in what he's doing. He's digging but he's digging for a very specific purpose. And you see how his tail's lifted a little bit there? It's because he was just defecating. And steenbok are the only little antelope that bury their dung. Nobody knows exactly why they do it. Some believe that because they've got such tiny territories that they move about in, it just helps to keep them a little bit more secret and cryptic by hiding the scent a little bit. Either way, it's an interesting aspect of their behavior. But yes, unlike the impala and their interesting, intricate lives, the steenbok leads a relatively simple, monogamous one. And in fact, you'll probably find his lady friend is grazing or browsing somewhere very close to him here. And although they do move about separately during the day, they were never really that far from each other. But just like the impala, however, the males have horns, the females do not. Now, the only time he might acquire another female is if his mate were to die, or vice versa in her case. Something we've spoken about before with these dwarf antelope species, all of the dwarf antelope, so that includes duiker in this particular area, all of the dwarf antelope are monogamous, but some of them, not all of them, but some of them are unfaithful. So if, for example, another female were to move into the outskirts of his territory and he were feeling, if he was a steenbok inclined towards being unfaithful, he would take the chance to mate with her. But not all of them do. The same applies for the females. The females will also mate with sort of roaming males and then return to their mate and they raise the offspring as his own. But it doesn't occur with all of them. There's no set pattern to which steenboks or which duikers will be unfaithful and which won't. Funny little aspect of their lives, that. I'm going to see if I can't spot the female for you as well. That's not the female, that's the male. I'm going crazy. Ah, it is still a male. Hello, little one. Now, Ruth, who is watching in Costa Rica, and the reason I've turned my engine off is because Ruth would like to know about the difference between a steenbok and a duiker. And while I explain it to you, Ruth, I'm going to just grab my mammal book, which luckily is right on top here, and I'll find the pictures for you whilst I chat to you. So steenbok and duiker are very, very similar in size and very easily confused if you are unfamiliar with them. Once you get to know the differences, however, you'll find that it's fairly easy to distinguish between the two. First of all, duiker have a slightly longer, slightly flatter back. They are a longer looking antelope, and actually if you look at them really carefully, they're a bit larger than the steenboks themselves. Whereas with the steenbok's body, it curves downwards. They've got almost a curved back. Let me just find this page for you. Bear with me 1 second. The other physical difference is the ears of the steenbok. So this is the animal that we were looking at now. They also have a slightly, in general, I talked about the body shape and the slight curve to the bottom, but in general they also have a slightly less lengthened nose. So they have a shorter nose than that of the duiker. And let me just see if I can't find for you in an obvious position. And just while I'm here, because I do have it here, this is a little antelope species that I promise you if we saw out here, we would all be jumping for joy. But it's another one that you could confuse with steenbok and duiker. The biggest difference with the Sharp's grysbok is that it's flecked. It's not that clear in this picture, but it's very clear in real life. It looks as though it's going grey. It looks like a steenbok that's going grey. It's got really salt and pepper style fur, lots and lots of white in it. So that's another little antelope that we could confuse with the steenbok and the duiker. But let's just, for completeness sake, find the duiker, which is a good direction. I checked my index because I was going in completely the wrong direction. Here we go, the common duiker. So a slight upward slope rather than the downward slope and curve of the steenbok, and quite a long, pronounced face. Their noses are much more pronounced than a steenbok. And both females and males have this tiny mohawk sitting up between either their horns or, in the case of the females, between their ears. So those are the main difference between duiker and between steenbok. You know, I could tell you that duiker are slightly bigger than steenbok. It's not that easy, though, when you're watching through the camera, where you don't really get that perspective of scale. Steenbok's ears, a little bit rounder, whereas again, same as all with the duiker, slightly more elongated than that of a steenbok. It's interesting, though, that they are basically... It is interesting how different types of antelope have evolved. In the case of the steenbok and the duiker, they both have exactly the same lifestyle, exactly the same habitat. They basically fill precisely the same ecological niche, and yet they are two totally distinct, totally separate species. Well, as we come around this corner, there is a very, very high chance, or high possibility, that there will be a herd of impala in front of us. In fact, I now will be devastated if there is not. They have been there every time I've driven around this corner in the last 10 days. And then we can stop and just have a look at the dynamics. Oh, come on, impala, don't choose this one day not to be here, please. Live wildlife filming. No, wait. Oh, nope, okay. So usually we come around this corner and we have a herd of impala to chat about. But I'm going to answer James' Richard's questions anyway, just even though we haven't managed to locate them. I was hoping it would be slightly different. But James, you were wondering what the chances are of a male impala dying from the sheer exhaustion of the rut. And the answer is relatively slim. They're unlikely to die from that. However, the mortality rate of male impala drastically increases. I was hoping these birds were going to fly towards us. Oh, the one that would have just flew away from us. A couple of bee eaters fluttering about. Brian, as always, showing us his incredible camera skills. And the European bee eaters are starting to gather together in preparation for their migration back, and in fact most of them have already left. We're just seeing the stragglers now. Not the best view, however. But James, the chances of them dying of exhaustion, relatively slim. The chances of them being so distracted that they haven't noticed the leopard or the lion coming up behind them, much, much higher. And they are noisy. You heard already the amount of noise that the male impalas are making at each other, that deep grunting cough sound that is such an anathema to how we imagine such delicate antelope to behave and comport themselves with dignity in that way. They don't seem to at all. So whilst it's not really the it's kind of the exhaustion that kills them, because even if they are on alert and they have seen that leopard or lion stalking them, they're just don't quite have the resources needed to be able to escape them. So yes, the death rate or the mortality rate of male impala at this time of year is the highest it will ever be for a time period in the year. Just as the mortality rate for the females is at its highest when they are right before they give birth, when they are heavily, heavily pregnant. Because again, they haven't exhausted themselves, but they are pregnant and struggling with the resource provision. We've got lots of birds fluttering about here. I'll try and stop for the one that I would like to spot. Earlier we saw a fork-tailed drongo, and it sort of loops around to Lucy's question. Lucy would like to know if we have mockingbirds in South Africa, and the answer is we don't, but I'm just trying to think about the family that the mockingbird belongs to. And of course, I've never been to the States, I've never seen a mockingbird. Lucy, are mockingbirds imitators? I feel as though they might be. That might have given them their name. In other words, they imitate the sounds of the world around them. I'm pretty sure they are. In that case, whilst we don't have mockingbirds of that particular standard, we do have members of the same family and birds that exhibit the same trait. And in particular, I'm thinking of the fork-tailed drongo, which we see. Oh, that was unfortunate. I didn't see those green parrots there. Ah, they're going to fly far away up into that dead tree at the back. Sorry, Lucy, I will get to your question in one moment. So, Lucy, the imitation ability of the mockingbird is seen in particularly the fork-tailed drongo. Let's see if we can't move around there, get a slightly different view. The fork-tailed drongo loves to imitate the sounds of other birds. In particular, they like to imitate cuckoos at a time when cuckoo might be looking to, being brood parasites, might be looking to lay their eggs in a fork-tailed drongo's nest. And what the male fork-tailed drongo does is he sits and he sings his heart out, but he sings the song of another male cuckoo, which in turn intimidates any of those cuckoos that might be trying to move into the area to parasitize his nest. Really clever little bird, and they've been known to fool even the greatest and best and most experienced twitchers and bird watchers around the world. Oopsie daisy. Hello, Jackson. You were a surprise. How's it? How's it been? Hey, Jax. Hi, guys. Oh, you took me by surprise.
Yes, yeah, I can see the aerial before I can see you.
Whatever.
You find it lucky? Anything this side?
Not that I've seen. Just in Kombi on the western edge of quarantine. I don't know if he's still about. He was a bit skittish.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Did you come from Impala Plains?
Yeah, I've come from Impala Plains. I'm going to go back towards those Nkumas. I think they're going to come on tonight.
Oh, okay, let us know.
They were hungry. I'll keep you updated. I'm going to go back there now.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye. Oh, what was I chattering away about before I nearly drove into Taxon and had a car accident?
Birds.
Birds. Thank you, Brian. Imitating birds. Some of the scrub robins are also relatively good imitators, in fact very good imitators, the white-browed scrub robin being one such example. Well, there was a bird sitting there. Unfortunately, I was too slow to capture it. Oh well. I'm trying to find another good example of a good mimic that I could actually show you as opposed to just tell you about. But there are some very good mimics out there. Jeffrey, who is watching in Texas, has sent through a little bit more information about the mockingbird. It's only found in North America. It's endemic to there, and it is the state bird of Texas, apparently. And Jeffrey's even heard them imitating the call or the ring of a cell phone. I've heard drongos do that once with a cell phone ring, and it was funnily enough, it was at a bush camp that I used to occasionally work at. And it would imitate the first few notes. I can't remember exactly how it went, but it took me forever to figure out, and this bird kept doing it and doing it day after day, and I couldn't figure out which bird species was making this lovely whistle. And I finally tracked down and found the drongo sitting away, happily chirping, imitating a phone call type ring. Incredible. Then drongos, of course, also known for turning that to their advantage. They turn it to their advantage. The famous story, of course, being the fork-tailed drongo imitating the alarm call of the meerkats in order to get them to drop their food and to run back into their burrows. And I'll finish that story in a second. I just want to comment on these butterflies before they disappear off. Debbie, you were wondering, you're seeing the butterflies flutter around happily around us, and you were wondering which particular kinds are out and about. These little almost white ones, they look white, they're actually a sort of an off-green color, are the African vagrants, or occasionally termed African migrants as well, funnily enough. And there's one more there, Brian. If you look further down, it's a little bit closer towards us. Perfect, thank you. Those two there, or that, sorry, not those two, that beautiful one there is known as a blue pansy. Isn't it stunning? The symmetry in butterflies are absolutely beautiful. You know, of course, that Brent has a particular, what is the word? I want to say interest, perhaps passion, for the various butterfly species. I know that he does focus quite heavily on them. Debbie, there's also the African monarch butterfly, which I've seen quite a few of, fluttering about. They tend to stay less still than the others. And then I've also seen a couple of citrus swallowtails. And there was one other one that I saw, and I can't remember what it was now. I've definitely seen other species. Oh, there's a beautiful one at the back there. I'm not sure which one that is. I just caught the glimpse of it. Brian, brilliant spotting there. Come back, butterfly. Just see the tips of its wings coming out. It looks like a solid yellow butterfly. I'm not too sure which one that is. And speaking of the butterfly expert, Brent has found more elephants to show you, so why don't you jump on the back of the vehicle with him?
Well, we have found ourselves in a traffic jam. Best type of traffic jam out here, in my opinion. Nice big early traffic jam. They're heading straight north down our eastern boundary. Let's see if we can get a bit closer. Lovely little ones in there. We decided to just show you that almost beautiful, that beautiful straight line of them. Now, a lot of our old viewers will know I'm quite fond of the game that I play with everyone, and that's called the collective noun game. So what was the original collective noun for a group of elephants? So if you know the original colonial collective noun for a herd of elephants, pop me an email, questions at WildEarthTV, or use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. What was the original collective noun for a herd of elephants? Oh, and look at this, they're very nice elephants. It looks like they're turning into Djuma, not out of Djuma. Now, of course, as wonderful it is, you can see that the elephants have definitely made tracking a little bit harder if there were any tracks here. And an update on tracks before we get right in amongst these ellies. Last tracks of Queen Karula, unfortunately, crossed south out of our traverse area. Oh, yes, very, very scary. There we go. There's one, I got the little one, got a little bit left behind, youngish female, that trumpeting. But again, you must look at the general state of most of the elephant herd, and you can see none of them are really showing any signs of being too upset with our presence. The ones in front of us are just trooping on. So always remember, for those of you who ever visit the Kruger, put your vehicle into low range when driving around elephants. Although this might seem counterproductive because it's slower, the vehicle noise isn't as harsh. So sometimes just the bad driving and revving of engines and stuff can really upset. There we go. Ready for the next trumpet, little one? Slight panic. Run into the road. So bad driving can really upset these amazing creatures. Now, if any of these particularly big females like that one there show me any signs that they are not happy with our presence, then we will definitely leave. But they're definitely on a mission. They're going somewhere. You see, there's one female there who doesn't look very relaxed. Oh, she's moved off now. You can see the most of them, specifically the big ones, probably the matriarch, seems very, very relaxed. Nice mixed group. You've got quite a few different ages in there. Okay, they seem to have slowed down a little bit, so let's try and get a bit closer. They might be on their way to the Torchwood waterhole, unfortunately. That's the closest sort of permanent water to where we are. It's okay, hello. Although it looks like they might have already been to a waterhole or mud wallow at least at some point during the day. Oopsie. Feeding off a marula tree at the moment. Sorry about that, guys. I've lost my communications. Let's give me a second to fix it. There we go. There we go. I can hear everyone again. So well done to Patty and Eddie and a few others who got that. The original collective colonial noun for a herd of elephants is a parade. A parade of elephants. And the reason that made me think of that is as they were marching down the road, it did look almost military-like, like they were on parade. Now, if any of you have watched the original Jungle Book movie, that sort of military-inspired theme with those ellies was probably quite a lot to do with that original collective noun. There we go. Astralina, spot on, the elephant marching song from the Jungle Book. So that parade. Fortunately, it looks like these guys are going to go, or maybe not. Let's just try jump up ahead to the front of the herd, and then we're just going to sit and wait and let them come to us. It's always better to let elephants come into your space rather than putting yourself in theirs. Aqua's wondering why that elephant was browsing on the marula instead of eating nice fresh grass. So Aqua, if we actually, while we wait for the eddies, they're going to come out in front of us here. If you actually have a look in this particular area we are, there's actually not that much grass, and a lot of what looks like grass is little perennial weeds or wild flowers. So there's not too much grass here. Now, where there is lots of nice grass, they will feed, but they will also browse. So when there is grass around, about 80% of their diet will consist of grass during the summer months, about 20% browse. And that inverts during the winter months, only 20% browsing. 20% grazing and 80% browse. There we go. Now, this nice fresh grass isn't so fresh anymore. Some of it will be getting quite dry already. And as I said, as much of a welcome respite that rain was for a lot of the animals, that rain came right at the end of the growth season. So a lot of the plants and grasses haven't had a lot of time to grow. So it's going to be a long dry season still. Here comes a little one just behind this female. Hello, little man. There's a little boy. It looks like he had a whale of a time in the mud today. So these family units of elephants are pretty much controlled by a dominant female who's the matriarch. Now, Karine, who's in Minnesota, is wondering, well, does she decide who gets to leave, who gets to stay? To a degree, yes. You will find generally that these little family units are made up of a few related females, with the oldest female generally not always being the matriarch. And the only individuals who are really forced to leave are going to be the young bulls as soon as they get to that sort of troublesome age. And with certain bulls that can be as young as 14 or 15, but generally a bit closer to 20. But even once they have been evicted from the breeding herds, they do trail them. They're not quite ready to leave mom, but they cause too many problems. And at that age, they've got so many hormones flowing around that they tend to just be a little bit overexcitable. So she definitely knows where she's going, and she's not really stopping and feeding. And she seems to be leading the herd there, that large female who was being followed by the little one initially. But unfortunately, it seems like they are heading a little bit further to the sort of northeast, away from our eastern boundary and into Torchwood. So we're going to move on and see what else we can find. So I've been asked a few times about this very cool caterpillar we found a few days ago, and it is the instar larval stage of the African vagrant, which is a butterfly we see quite commonly, and it's been feeding off its favorite host plant, which is the senna. Now here we go, you can have a look, and I'm going to see if we can find any of those caterpillars. We also got asked if we could try to check if they got a cocoon, and if they do cocoon, maybe we can actually keep one and see what's going on. But you can see how these sennas have been completely stripped. I mean, there's almost not a leaf left here, and that is all from the African vagrant butterfly. Now, I'm just trying to see if I can find a cocoon or even a live caterpillar. It seems like they didn't get all the way to this one, as the flowers are still intact and doesn't look like it's been fed on too much. But, I mean, underneath here you can just see there's lots and lots of little caterpillar poops. So, but no sign of the larva yet. So there's another spot I want to check. Hello, hello. Hello. How are you for? So Andrew from Cheetah Plains is coming past us.
Yes.
How's everyone doing?
Hello, very well.
Very good. Where are the animals? Yeah, I know you're hiding them.
Say animal come out when they want.
I know. Well, good luck. We'll see you later.
No, they should come out right there soon.
Which ones?
The Dove, I was within Dove.
Oh, they didn't go. Yeah, they went
More coming.
that way. There's more.
There's more. With
Okay.
babies.
Oh, very nice. Well, we might have a gander down there. Good luck.
Thanks so much. Bye.
There we go. So a lot of you out there have to attend meetings and whatnot, you know, for work. There's my afternoon business meeting, finding out where the elephant are wandering. Okay, we're just going to check slightly up ahead for those beautiful little vagrant caterpillars. I think this was the spot. They've literally completely depleted a whole field of senna. Now, the thing that amazed me the most about, wow, there's even less leaves left than when I was last year, that amazed me the most about this particular little caterpillar. So he's not one of the noxious ones, so not like an acrea or monarch that eats plants to sequester poison for their adulthood. But in his caterpillar stage, he's got 3 different forms of defense. And if we can find one of those caterpillars, I'm hoping we are able to. Be careful, there's some elephants on the way. Now, could we be too late? Have I come to check a day or two too late that there are no more caterpillars left? Well, that looks to be the case, I'm afraid. Now, I couldn't find where they actually go once they start, once they start going into a cocoon. So for those of you who missed, I know a few of you would have seen those caterpillars on the safari with us a few times as we came to check their progress of how they decimated the sennas of Cheetah Cutline. But I will find you. Let's move on. I will find you what they look like shortly. And we will try to find you an adult African vagrant so you can have a look at it, the butterfly. There we go. So there he is. That's what we were looking for on the sennas. And there we go. You can see there's the exact little plant we were looking at that it's been eaten. It used to be called a cassia. It's now changed. And there's the adult butterfly with its wings closed and with its wings open. So there we go, there the wings open. very, very... Apparently you have seen them earlier with Jamie. There's very distinct little 2 black spots on the inside of the wing. Now, the caterpillar itself, as I said, it had 3 different defense mechanisms. And if we have a look carefully there, it actually felt like sandpaper. It had a very rough edge to it. The other thing is, which I haven't seen too many caterpillar species do, is it leaps. So as you touch it, it jumps and then goes dead still. So it sort of tries to get out of whatever might be eating its sort of space and then just keeps dead still. So quite a useful tactic. So they could actually, the one leapt quite far from us. I think it leapt about 30 centimeters. So you imagine a bird might get slightly confused by that. And then the third, which is quite a common one with most insect species, is they vomit up something disgusting. Generally bile, so quite bitter tasting, to try dissuade predators from eating them. But it looks like we were too late. And unfortunately in my research, I haven't been able to find out exactly where those caterpillars go, where the larvae, the pupa stage is. Okay, so while we continue on to explore the far eastern reaches of Djuma Private Game Reserve, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
I am exploring and waiting to see if we can have an opportunity to head in and have a look at those Djuma lionesses. I'm still trying to find this buffalo herd that they were following. You'd think that a group of 100, 200 animals would leave behind some evidence. Admittedly, however, I have taken a long way round to where I think they might be, just to double check that the lionesses haven't come through. I've spoken to the guides on Arathusa. All 5 of them are in exactly the same place that we left them. And in an interesting turn of affairs, James has now started calling me pajamas on the Game Drive channel. It's interesting. I'm not sure where that came from. I'm pretty sure he meant me. I assume that was me he was referring to. No, it's still pajamas. Standing by, James. James, it seems as though Karula's crossed south. Mike Cheetah Plains has picked up on Nkonzo 4, Madodo and Gala on Gari Main, mobile east around the Muwati, that he says are fairly fresh. Not sure if you want to contact him. Sorry, I'm chuckling just at James's nickname. Oh goodness, we found ourselves the elephants have done some landscaping. That's relatively fresh. A large marula tree that has been pushed over by an elephant. It's always extraordinary to just imagine the power of an elephant that did that. And that might not even have been a bull. That could easily have been a cow, a female elephant, just pushing against it. And admittedly, the marula tree is not the hardest wood. In fact, it's a very, very soft wood when compared to something like a bush willow or a leadwood, for example. Even so, that is no mean feat to simply snap something over like that. And I always find that a tremendous lesson in the power of those animals when you see something like that stretched out across a road. They are truly extraordinary animals. We've just had a report from Mike at Cheetah Plains. He says that male lion tracks going east on Gari Main. Apparently, Brent has been looking for the caterpillars of the African vagrant butterfly. Those caterpillars that you might have seen with Brent launching themselves out of the way. Brian, I think you were filming that.
Yeah.
The incredible jumping caterpillars. Let's go this way. Oops, sorry, everybody, changing direction. We're going this way now. And Debbie was wondering, since he was continuing that search and struggling to find any, he was saying, with so many butterflies about and yet no caterpillars, do they really pupate that fast? It's a very good point. And I mean, most butterflies, the time period during which they are in their cocoons, pupating, would be, what is it? It's a couple of weeks, depending on the species. Probably between 2 to 4 weeks, with the occasional butterfly pupating within 1. I'm not sure why it is that he's struggling to find them. I don't know if it's just because they come in sort of in population bursts. Obviously it has to happen or occur where the female lays her eggs, so it might be that Brent is not looking in the right place, but 100 meters away in a different bush on a different senna, there's 1,000 caterpillars that have recently hatched and are in the process of consuming enough to begin that process of the metamorphosis in their cocoons. Now, I don't know if it's a combination of the fact that maybe they do have quite a rapid life cycle, combined with the fact that they aren't necessarily going to be on every senna, but where they are on a plant, there's lots of them in one go, if that makes sense. So lots at one time. I'm not sure, Debbie. This is sort of the first time, I think it was the first time that Brent's not necessarily seen the caterpillars of the African vagrant, but certainly managed to put them on camera. I'll keep looking as well, because there are lots and lots of senna plants in this area as well. What I've found fascinating is where I used to work, which is not all that far away from here, the area that I was in before I started at Wild Earth. We used to see processionary caterpillars absolutely everywhere. Those caterpillars that move nose to tail of the next set across the road and onto the next bush, and they do that so that essentially they look like a twig lying in the road. They don't look like individual caterpillars. Very, very hairy caterpillars, and when they do pupate, they give rise to a moth known as a processionary moth. Now, processionary moths, where I used to work, were an absolute, I wouldn't call them a nightmare, but let's just say that you never, ever, ever left your clothes on the washing line overnight. And that is because they had this scaly-like substance, or almost powder-like substance on their wings, that if they left that residue on your clothes, you would not, and you put those clothes on, you would not stop scratching for days at a time. I'm going to find this oriole for you. I can hear him calling. And I'll find you a picture of a processionary moth, what they look like. Well, let me just find this oriole. Oh, our job has become so much more difficult since it rained. Everything has so many more places to hide away. I think he's a little bit too far into the bush to be able to see. Right, do we think I can multitask in order to look up the moth and drive at the same time? I'm sure we can. Let's give it a go. Oh goodness, I hope it's in this book. Oopsie. Maybe this isn't my brightest and best idea. Maybe I should just stop the car. I feel as though we could go careering into a tree, and I'm sure I'd never hear the end of it. Brent would probably offer to teach me to drive again. There are so many different moth species that we might have a little bit of difficulty. Look at how the sun is coming out. Okay, well, we've managed to find moths. It might be that we won't have a picture in this particular book know that Brent has got the butterfly book. Unfortunately, it might... Oh, there we go. I did find them. So this is the caterpillar that I was talking about. Let me turn Brent and James's conversation down. So this is what I mean when I said that they walk basically face to bum as they walk along. So they're right next to the different individuals, and it makes them look indistinguishable. One is indistinguishable from the other. But when you see that with a hairy caterpillar, you immediately know that this is not a caterpillar that you want to go touching with your bare hands or in any way allowing into contact with your skin. That's what the adult form looks like. And if you look really hard, you can sort of see the fluffiness to them on this particular adult. Terribly, terribly itchy. And it's something that sends you into a rash. Apparently, people have made errors before in attempting to use the cocoons of the processionary moth caterpillars to turn them into silk. Terribly bad idea, because within those cocoons, all of those little hairs around those caterpillars have embedded themselves. So you essentially end up making silk that is completely unusable, unless you wish to sell it to somebody who would prefer to be itchy for the rest of their lives. Now there's a theory, I was trying to get you that oriole on camera. Now an oriole, one of their main dietary requirements is hairy caterpillars. They are adapted to eat hairy caterpillars. There was a theory that went around ornithologists a couple of years back that the reasons why cuckoos have evolved as brood parasites is because their primary diet is hairy caterpillars, which the offspring would not be able to cope with, being fed on those hairy caterpillars. That is a theory that I encountered and immediately questioned, and since proved to be totally incorrect, because of course the black-headed oriole, that bird that was whistling off in the distance, is also a predominantly hairy caterpillar feeder, and yet has absolutely no problem in feeding and looking after its own offspring. So it will continue to be a mystery as to why cuckoos are actually brood parasites. Of course, with that brood parasitism comes a wide variety of different methods that the host bird species will employ in order to avoid being parasitized by the hosts, because that's the last thing that they want to invest their energy in. Gracie, who is one of our 8-year-old viewers. Hi, Gracie. Gracie, you wanted to know whether or not we could watch a caterpillar turn into a butterfly. Unfortunately for us, Gracie, it would take us a very long time to be able to watch that. But there are lots and lots of videos of people who have sped up the time. So they've put a camera in place looking at where a caterpillar starts to build its cocoon, starts to spin its cocoon, and they put a camera there and they videotaped the whole process. They filmed the whole process of the caterpillar turning into a butterfly. And I'm sure that you would be able to find one of those, or maybe your mom or one of your nurses could help you find one of those videos. It's something that I look out for in particular. Gracie, if I ever see a caterpillar that's busy weaving its cocoon, what I'll do is I promise I'll set up a camera for you, and then I'll show you the sped up video. But we'll have to wait a little bit, because it's going to take them a couple of weeks to do that big change because it's a big change. They have to go from a caterpillar with lots and lots of legs and change themselves into an animal with wings. They have to make those wings inside their cocoon, so it does take them a little bit of time. And I am actually going to stop for this because it takes us back to Lucy's question on the mockingbirds and the imitators. Now, where is he gone? There he is. The fork-tailed drongo. The greatest mimic in the skies out here. Oh, where are we looking? He's a little bit that side. Sorry, Brian. And he's managed to catch something. And funnily enough, I was watching out of the corner of my eye. I actually think he stole that catch from another bird, a smaller bird. It looked like it might have been a canary or something like that. And I spoke about Lucy's question and the fact that these fork-tailed drongos are exceptionally widely spread throughout South Africa, even in the arid desert areas with meerkats. Just bear with me for 1 second, sorry. Brent is trying to get hold of me on the Game Drive channel. Standing by. Brent. Brent, I'm slowly working my way towards the Nkumas on Arathusa, unless you would like to go. Copy. Oh, there he goes. Looking to catch something in the grass. But yes, back to the meerkat story. Meerkats have lots and lots of different alarm calls. Some of them mean look up to the skies, there's an eagle. Some of them mean band together. There is a snake. It provokes lots of different responses. That was also, by the way, incredible camera work on Brian's behalf. And the drongos in that area have learnt the alarm call of meerkats that means drop whatever you're doing and dash to the burrow. And they wait until the meerkats have gathered a particularly juicy snack, at which point they give that alarm call and then rush down and steal. Oh, that's awesome, Brian. Steal whatever snack the meerkats happen to leave behind. He's utilizing that perch as a great place to stop and look about. Okay, let's leave our fork-tailed drongo. Well done, Brian. And let's slowly start making our way towards those lions on Arathusa. As I said, I'm not in any real rush. I've got the updates from the Arathusa guides that there's quite a few people still waiting for a chance to see them. And at the moment, they haven't moved very far from where we left them this morning. But they're still quite happily lying down. But as things get cooler, of course, that could well change. Alright, those are my plans for the afternoon. Let's find out what Brent has planned for the rest of his.
So, as Jean-Andre and I have been perusing the eastern sectors, and I've been checking for tracks of that male leopard called Djuma. Unfortunately, it seems like he's possibly still to the north or to the east. I have heard a report that there were tracks of Birmingham males and possibly Styx lioness quite close to the cheetah cut line, but unfortunately they are still to the east. So we're just going to slowly check back towards there. I know Aubrey's gone in to have a look, check up on those tracks. So as soon as I get an update, I'll let you know. Hopefully, fingers crossed, those Birmingham boys decide to meander north towards us. But it is a spectacularly beautiful evening. The temperature's dropping quite quickly, and I think we're going to be in for some chilly mornings shortly. So of course, as we get into the dry months, all this green will disappear and it's going to become quite barren. And Susan in Long Island is wondering if there's a fire, does everyone in the area help? Or is there a fire station nearby? No fire station. Each of the individual lodges will have... quickly across to Jamie.
Look at these guys go. I know it's not the best view you've ever seen, but the kudu are racing around, having such an incredible game. I really hope it continues. They keep dashing up. Oh, they're going to come back around the termite mound. Let me go forward a little bit so you can see. I've never seen them. Oh, no, they're coming back this way. I've never seen them play like this. I've seen Inyala do it, but I've never seen little kudu do it. They're having a wonderful time. Oh, dare I go forward? They're gonna come back. Oh, this is so difficult. There's a head sticking up at the top. Let's just go forward a little bit. What you doing, you little things? Are you having such a good game on your termite mound? Whee! Showing off their newly found agility. Isn't that beautiful? All stopped to look at us intently. Incredible. I mean, these kudu were only born a couple of months ago and they're dashing about on those spindly little legs that barely look strong enough to hold them. Here comes the last one. Oh, up onto the termite mound. And racing back down again. Whoop! Change my mind. Now, initially when we first saw them, they were running circles around us, like the Nyala were doing a couple of months ago in that one sighting. Oh, now we're playing King of the Castle on the termite mound. This is incredible to witness. I love it when antelope play. It just gives you a whole different level of insight into their personalities. And the adults looking on. There's an adult female at the back on the right, keeping a close eye on us. And regarding the antics of the youngsters with dignity and tolerance. Oopsie. Some of them look as though they're about to fall down. Every now and again, careful. Last thing you want is a broken ankle. Well, we're all going to cluster on the top of this termite mound now. There's about 6 youngsters here, all dashing about. This is so lovely to see. These are definitely high up on my list of favorite antelope species. Musical, you were wondering while we watched these kudu play about just how many antelope species are indigenous to South Africa. And I'm going to give you an answer in one moment. I don't know the exact number. I have to think about it because Southern Africa and South Africa are two very different things. And I can only really give you the answer in Southern Africa. It should be quite similar to the answer for South Africa. Look at it go with its tail in the air. Having such a ball. While we watch them, musical, I'm going to start listing antelope that occur in South Africa, and this is not just in this area. So there is the black wildebeest, the blue wildebeest, the Liechtenstein hartebeest, a red hartebeest, so we're on 4 now. Bontebok makes 5, Blesbok makes 6, Tsessabe makes 7, red duiker, common duiker, and the blue duiker make 10, springbok 11, klipspringer 12, Damara dik-dik, which is not something that occurs in South Africa but does occur in Southern Africa, makes 11. The Orubi is 12, Steenbok 13, Cape Grysbok and Sharp Grysbok 15. The little Sunni is 16, similar to a Steenbok in size and shape. Impala are 17. A roan and a sable makes 19. The Gemsbok makes 20. The waterbuck makes 21. And then the bushbuck, nyala, kudu, eland. I've lost track now. I got distracted by James's voice on the Game Drive channel, so I hope you were all keeping track of them. It said eland. The southern reedbuck, the southern mountain reedbuck, while we watch these kudu dash about. The grey reebuck, the red lechwe, the puku, the sitatunga. And that was a list of all of the antelope species that I can think of within Southern Africa. I really hope you were keeping count, because I couldn't really listen to James watch the kudu and list all the antelope at the same time. So I hope you were keeping count, musical. That was a list of all of them. And now, our little kudu sedately wandering off. Excess energy has been utilized. They're calm again, and off they go. First time I've seen kudu calves playing like that since I started working at Wild Earth. So a very special sighting in this incredible afternoon light. The reason my train of thought derailed completely, because I heard James's report about the buffalo herd that he's finally found on Philemon's cutline, or that has finally been found. Before I leave, and I mentioned about that I was giving you a count for Southern Africa and not South Africa itself. And Chantal, in the UK, you were wondering what the difference is. So the Southern Africa region, South Africa being the country, Southern Africa including South Africa, Swaziland, Lesotho, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and a little bit of Mozambique as well. So that southern section of Africa, and then that includes South Africa, the country. So that's what I was referring to as, and the reason why I didn't make an exact distinction between South Africa and Southern Africa, I didn't count just the antelope in South Africa, is because there are certain areas where they've been introduced. There are certain places where those ranges just overlap, and we get to experience magical sightings like the one we've just had with the kudu. Right, back over to Brent. Let's see what he's up to.